Whoopsie. Good morning. Welcome to Reading the Science of Mind in 1 Year. I'm Reverend Rafe Ellis, Senior Minister and Spiritual Leader at the Center for Spiritual Living Common Ground in Central Maryland. Today is April 18th. And so let's get started with the reading and then we'll share perspectives. And I invite you, if you have something that you would like to share, that you put it in the chat and I will voice that into the room. Then we will do a brief meditation and I will close us out with a spiritual mind treatment. Here we go. For April 18th, Science of Mind, A Philosophy, a Faith, a Way of Life by Ernest Holmes. Reading from page 447, paragraph 1 through page 449, paragraph 3, using inclusive language. How to approach the Spirit. If we wish to come to the Spirit for the healing of our wounds, let us come in peace and with spontaneous joy, for the Spirit is joy. Let us come with thanksgiving also, for a thankful heart is in harmony with life. But we must come in quiet confidence, with an open and receptive mind, a believing heart, naturally, sanely, and expectantly. In this way, we are entering the portals of reality, clad in garments of righteousness. We often think what we require is money, friends, and physical healing. After these things do those who are outside a knowledge of the law seek, and they do well, for we need all these things. But they are the efforts of right relationship to life. All people need some form of healing. Most people are unhappy. Few have any realization of permanent peace. We seek fragments when the whole is at hand. How illogical to think that anything can rise higher than its source. The universe is a perfect, undivided whole, and healing can take place only when one is unified with it. How can anyone then be healed in part? Let us seek wholeness above all else. If we would come to the universal wholeness, we must approach it through the law of its own nature. This means that we must give our undivided attention to the spiritual unit back of all things. Since all else is included within this unit, we find our particular good only through unity with life. This conscious unity makes our mind receptive to completion, since life itself is complete. This reception is always an inner light, for the individual can use only such knowledge as they inwardly possess. In reality, we know God or truth only as we ourselves embody God or truth. And since it is impossible to embody anything outside ourselves, this knowledge must be an inner light. The truth itself is infinite, but we only embody the finite in degree. The degree that we do embody reality, we become poised and powerful. The purpose of the science of mind. The whole purpose of the science of mind is to reconcile the apparent separation of the spiritual world, which must be perfect, with the material world, which appears imperfect. The spiritual world is the cause of the material. We are spiritual beings governed by mental law. Only that world can appear to us which we mentally perceive. Our experience is the logical outcome of our inner vision. Our horizon is limited to the confines of our own consciousness. Wherever this consciousness lacks a true perspective, its outward expression will lack proper harmony. This is why we are taught to be transformed by the renewing of our minds, since no one lives by proxy, but each unto ourselves, Every individual must make the test in our own soul. And Jesus knew their thoughts. Matthew 12:25. And Jesus knew their thoughts. That is, he had an extended vision which enabled him to know what others were thinking. He had healed a man possessed of unclean thoughts, and the priests had reasoned within themselves that his power to do this was one of the evil one. Jesus, understanding what was in their minds, told them that a house divided against itself cannot stand. And if he cast out evil by the power of evil, then evil would be a house divided against itself. But, he said, if I cast out devils by the Spirit of God, then the kingdom of God is come unto you. We cannot do good while we continue to do evil, nor can we heal evil except by the power of good. To all sincere students of science of mind, this lesson is a guidepost pointing to the fact that the thought of good must ever overcome any thought that is less than good. By the presence of good, evil is cast out, just as by the presence of light, the darkness disappears. Good thoughts and a good harvest. Matthew chapter 7, verses 17-18. A good tree produces good fruit, so good thoughts bear a harvest of good deeds, while evil consumes itself in the flame of its own fire. If one's life produces good deeds, then the one is themselves good, and this no matter what their particular religious belief may or may not be. The mouth speaks from the heart. It is impossible for a person to conceal themselves. In every act, word, or gesture, they stand revealed as they are, and not as they would have themselves appear to be. From the universe, nothing is or can be hidden. The very walls have ears, and the mirror of life cannot help reflecting back to us that which we really are. Jesus plainly tells us that we are held accountable for the very words which we speak. No one ever lived who placed a greater power in the word. By our words we are justified or condemned. The word may be considered to be the complete thought and act of people. There must be a thought before there can be an act, and a thinker before there can be any thought. The thinker condemns or justifies themselves through their thought.
So there's a lot going on in this reading. Some of the things I highlighted as we were going through this is um, all people need some form of healing. Um, and then as it goes on and talks about healing, it's talking about healing as the realization of the nature, of the essence, of the spiritual truth of our being. Um, I think the paragraph at the top of page 448 really is one to highlight and somehow memorialize in the spaces that we live in so that we see it often. Um, the whole purpose of the science of mind is to reconcile the apparent separation of the spiritual world, which must be perfect, with the material world, which appears imperfect. The spiritual world is the cause of the material. We are spiritual beings governed by mental law. Only that world can appear to us which we mentally perceive. And that's talking about the mental equivalent. I just finished teaching that class, Mental Equivalence, and it's an incredibly powerful class because it teaches us to take responsibility for our thoughts, for those mental pictures, for the images that we're holding in consciousness, the mold that cause substance is filling. Um, he goes on to say, our experience is the logical outcome of our inner vision. Our horizon is limited to the confines of our consciousness. Wherever this consciousness lacks a true perspective, its outward expression will lack proper harmony. So, the chaos, the confusion, the um, things that show up in our personal lives that feel out of sync is life mirroring back to us what we, individualized expressions of this one thing, are thinking into it. Um, and so, this is why we are taught to be transformed by the renewing of our minds. Since no one's lives lives by proxy, in other words, no one can do this for us, right? It is truly an inside job, but each unto themselves, every individual must make the test in their own soul. And soul in metaphysics is referring to the activity, the law, that aspect of doer, right? It's not referring to a thing. It's referring to the movement of the creative aspect within us that we are simultaneously form, simultaneously an idea, and we are the substance. The activity of law operates within us, around us, and our thoughts become things. That's just the way it works, right? Um, it seems really complex, and yet it's very, very simple. Very, very simple. Um, and I love on page 49 where it goes into every act, word, or gesture is revealing what we believe. Right? The mirror of life cannot help reflecting back to us that which we really are. By our words, we are justified or condemned. By our words. See, it doesn't matter whether someone else condemns us or co signs our behavior. We're the ones creating our experience. 100 people can tell me how amazing I am, and I can have one thought that negates all of that. That's the power of our own thinking. Now, shifting that one thought, then it won't matter if 100 people condemn me. I will still know that I am a one of a kind, intentional, on purpose, never to be repeated divine idea in the mind of creation, a desire of creation, consciousness, God, whatever we want to call it, to experience itself as this individualized expression that I call Rafe. The same is true about you, whoever you are. You are a one of a kind, on purpose, never to be repeated divine idea, a desire in the heart of God to experience itself as you. That's who you are, beloved. And when we know that, when you know that about you, when you consistently speak that into your reality, either out loud or silently, but the more you repeat that, the more you know that, the more you live into that, the less it matters what anybody else thinks about you. because you know the truth of you, and the truth of you will exemplify itself because life is always mirroring back to us what we think into it. So, that question of who do you think you are, I invite you to know who you are, to know the preciousness of you, to know the magnificence of you, to just know that, to know that you are beyond this physical realm, that is metaphysics defined above the physical, that is the truth of your being, is the perfection, your spiritual perfection. And as you know that, it will show up in your physical. So I'm going to stop there and take that reality into our time of meditation to contemplate, to be present with the magnificence of you. Here we go. Breathing into this moment, this now, where all of life is expressing. The gentle song of the birds waking up, the traffic of life moving, the technology that we're using, every expression of life coming together to celebrate itself, one power everywhere present, one breath breathing itself, one substance expressing in the multiplicity of creation, one wholeness that is expressing as intentional, one of a kind, individualized expressions of itself, each one by design, never to be repeated, each one whole, complete, and perfect within itself, each expression of this infinite beingness infused with all that it is. And so each individualized expression, a portal of infinite possibility, a portal of perfect intelligence, a portal of infinite abundance, a portal of infinite possibility, empowered to use the creative process with complete freedom, with complete grace. And each and every one of us informed by what is reflected back to us, how we are using, how we are choosing. Even when choosing is outside of our conscious intentional awareness, our choices are reflected back to us through that activity of the creative process within and as us, moved into being by thought, conscious or unconscious, aware or unaware, woke or asleep. And so I speak my word, claiming and affirming that that inner light, that inner knowing is bright and brilliant and illuminating the truth of being in the awareness of each expression of it. I speak my word, moving consciousness into action, into expression, as awareness, as embodiment, as an experience of the wholeness that each expression of it is, of a healing, of a reconciliation between the apparent separation of the spiritual and the physical. And by apparent, I am recognizing that there is no separation. And so I claim and affirm that each individualized expression is becoming aware of and embodying to the level of experience the wholeness of creation in, through, and as the expression of it in, through, and as each. And as we each know the truth of our being, we know the truth of all being. We know the wholeness of one. And everything unlike that simply falls away. That peace is the physical expression that inward alignment of the self with the self. The ego, the Christ consciousness, the divine in form, in alignment with the source and substance of itself, expressed as peace, as harmony, as the harmonious operation of one, active within each expression of it, until that is all that is known. And so that is the lived experience of the whole. I feel it. I know it is the truth of being. So I claim it as so. And I give thanks knowing that claiming it makes it so. Not later, not maybe, it makes it so now. That the word spoken is the word fulfilled. And so I stand in the agency that it is complete, that it is now, that it is done. I celebrate. And knowing it is complete demands that I let go of any distortion in my thinking that would minimize my experience of it. Knowing it is complete demands that I let go of all doubt. I let go of all what if thinking and simply stand in the gratitude of completion, in the expectancy of seeing only the completion of the word, the manifestation of the word spoken. So I let go and I move into this day of experiencing the wholeness of creation, the perfection of one. Ashe. Shalom. Aho. Amin. Amen. And so it is. Namaste.